So when you hear on the news today, hey, we're processing more claims than ever. Yeah, that's true, but they're also denying, it's 3 out of 5 claims.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're processing, but you may not like the result.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to this, in my opinion. I break it down to 2 people in the system that really matter. Despite all the largest bureaucracy in America, it comes down to the evaluator and the rater. The person seeing you with, who may not give 2 shits, right? They're just basically say, yep, I'm just here to do a job, and what they write down, that just impacted your claim. And, and it starts from the minute with a simple statement. You may have tanked yourself by saying, how is your day going? It's going okay, thanks. Boom, just lost your claim. To the evaluator, or to the rater, who may be a civilian, who may have never served.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. What happens when the war ends, but the waiting never does? You serve your country, give it everything, and come home to find yourself in a system that sees you as a file, not as a fighter. But for some of us, we don't just sit and wait for a diagnosis, we build. Trinidad Aguirre is a 100% disabled Gulf War veteran. He knows what it's like to be invisible in the system. But instead of walking away, he created VetsForever, a movement, a mission, and a battle-tested process that delivers what veterans deserve: speed, dignity, and truth. Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions, carries the same mission. We tell stories of veterans who never quit, who find a way forward even when the system stalls. Because this podcast isn't just a platform, it's a rallying point for veterans who still have to fight, who still have the fight in them, and for advocates who refuse to look the other way. This isn't just Trinidad's story, it's yours, and the next chapter starts now. Trinidad, hey man, Trinidad, it's a pleasure to have you on the Unfinished Business Podcast, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. How did I do with the intro?
Man, you stuck it. I love that intro, man. I love the energy, the passion. It just resonates. I was just getting pumped up listening to you.
Awesome, man. And it really comes down to, the commonality, the common bond that the Unfinished Business Podcast, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions, has with your organization. And it's so awesome to know that there's someone in the, I don't say behind the curtains, because you're in the front lines. Some people call it behind, but you kind of have to play both roles at times. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. You got to lead from the front, and you got to check in, because if not, you're out of touch, and you've got to be in touch with this community.
Yeah, before we talk about VetsForever, what was the moment when the system failed you? When did you realize something inside of you had to break before you could actually build anything new?
Yeah, man, that's such a powerful question, and it's one that I've been really reflecting on, because when I think of the system, kind of like what I tell my clients today, it's not the one thing, right? Like I hurt my back, and that's the one thing. No, it's a culmination of things, and I break it into 3 really life phases as we talk about, where our journeys. And that first journey really starts back in boot camp and all the way through my enlistment career, right? I would do, first of all, I served with honor and I loved everything I do. I knew what I was signing up for. The stress, the abuses of my body, the near, traumatic events I faced, I would do everything again today. But when we talk about it, and you're gonna hear a theme as I have this conversation, it's all about rules and regulations, right? If you know what's going on, you can work with the system and be successful. Without a doubt, I knew where I stood in the military. I knew what I had to be promoted. I knew what the UCMJ was, what I could and couldn't do. If not, I had my senior enlisted guy there to tell me exactly what I couldn't do. But at the same time, what wasn't written was the military culture. When you got hurt or when you got injured. And it was like the mentality back in the late 90s, early 2000s was suck it up, buttercup. You're gonna go to medical for a hurt pinky or something. The mentality then, and maybe still true today, is we don't talk about our pain, whether that's physical or mental. The trauma we faced, the pain, it was really, we bury it deep and we move and to complete the mission. And that was fine. But then when you transition out, then the inverse is true, where now the rules and regulations are more generally guidelines. There's no 8 o'clock muster, there's 8:15 maybe, and everybody talked about their feelings and their emotions, and it was a complete reversal of our cultural mindset that we experienced. So this juxtaposition that I found myself in was weird. It was awkward because despite the work I did was about, not connecting with my peers, my work peers, right? And I couldn't fit in the company culture, right? That we all talked about company culture. And it led to me with this endless cycle of job rotations. I couldn't find a home. And so then I finally manned up after talking one day with a fellow vet and said, you know what? There's strength and weakness, right? By admitting weakness, by admitting vulnerability, I'm not weak, I'm getting stronger. And so then I turned to the VA and I said, you know what? There are rules and regulations there. I can understand that. And I'm finally getting on board with, okay, I'm going to unpack some of these demons, some of these pains. And, because I was looking for a service disabled veteran. And to be denied, when they came in, and despite what the rules said, the regulations said, they said, no, you're not service connected for your hearing or your back or your trauma that you faced. Man, what a blow. And so that moment was really a buildup from all of my life experiences. As, look, I was a rule follower in the service. Now I'm forced to talk about my emotions. And I finally came 20 years after the fact to talk to the VA about all the things, and then the door yet shuts in your face. So to be broken, to get that slapped into me, it really had a profound impact on my life. And it really changed the course of my life at that point.
Yeah. That's amazing. Everything you just shared was I could just think about real time when I sat there in front of somebody who was evaluating me, and I had to look at a list of emojis, emotional smiley faces, frowning faces, right, and try to diagnose whether that was a smiley or a sad face, and have these these things, right? And then you look at the person who's evaluating you, and they're yawning while you're going through this process with them. How much of that structure, that infrastructure, the personnel, what do you think about the personnel that's kind of, of course, not everyone's what I just said, but
right,
in general, do you think sometimes they're just going through the grind themselves and they're caught up in some kind of vortex of lack of empathy, and maybe they just get cloudy callous, I guess, sometimes?
Yeah. Because when you're dealing with the system in terms of, in this case, the VA, you gotta, I never try to judge, right? I put myself in in the other person's shoes.
Yeah. And
I think of, okay, what do I know as facts?
Yeah.
And those raters are doing the best that they can, right?
Yeah.
Despite, what we don't know, or what's not really talked about, is that they're forced to review 27 claims a day. They're under this high pressure cycle of, I've got to get evaluated. So when you hear on the news today, hey, we're processing more claims than ever. Yeah, that's true. But they're also denying, it's 3 out of 5 claims.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're processing, but you may not like the result.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to this, in my opinion. I break it down to 2 people in the system that really matter. Despite all the largest bureaucracy in America, it comes down to the evaluator and the rater. The person seeing you with, who may not give 2 shits, right? They're just may say, yep, I'm just here to do a job, and what they write down, that just impacted your claim. And and it starts from the minute with a simple statement. You may have tanked yourself by saying, how is your day going? It's going okay, thanks. Boom, just lost your claim. To the evaluator, or to the rater, who may be a civilian, who may have never served. And they're exposed to read about your life and how it goes, and then try to make a determination with incomplete data or life experience. So it's really difficult, but at the same time, that's why the rules and regulations matter, right? Did they meet the standard, yes or no? And it's not as black and white as people like to think.
Yeah, you were just another. So you were just another veteran stuck in a backlog, right? Yep. What did the waiting season do to your sense of identity and worth?
First, it's kind of like watching a pot of water boil, right? And I say that because while you're in the service and whether you're a veteran, the lack of communication and transparency that's given to us about the VA process is lacking. We may be very gladly covered on page 59 of a 90-page slide deck in TAPS, right? That we all kind of glaze over sitting in that room, or 20 years like me after the fact, I don't even remember what TAPS was like, and I have no idea what the VA process is. It's very unclear, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. You go on YouTube and talk to the YouTube talking heads, experts, and honestly just comes down to the veteran. I have guys that win in 3 weeks, and I have guys that win in 18 months. It just depends. And so for me, in that system, I remember going through it, and it was a large sense of anxiety and, ready to stress, like, am I going to get approved? What's the status? So looking at va.gov almost every day, it's just like, it becomes your identity. It's like, oh, did I check today? And then what's worse is, oh, I'm on step 5. Now I jumped out to step 3. What does that mean? Am I denied? Oh, man. And so you start playing these psychological games. So that backlog is scary, especially if you're doing it alone. You don't know what to go on. So for something that's supposed to, relieve your stress and anxiety because you're going through the process, it actually raises it because of the unknown. You don't know what the VA is going to say about you, how they're talking about you, and then at the end of the decision, it may not be the decision you like. So yeah, it's a wrecking ball. It's tough.
Yeah, man. I mean, just understanding. I think going back to what we're talking about, like the process. Like, is that person able to process that that you are disabled, or that you're in this turmoil with whatever ailments you're dealing with?
Right.
The point about identity. Also, what is hanging on? You're dealing with this injury, the prolonged, agonizing issue you're dealing with as a veteran coming back from deployment, and the things you've had to encounter. What does that do for you from an identity perspective as well?
Before the company, I felt like my identity was lost. Like, really, despite my accolades in the professional world and the degrees and my family, I'd never felt truly whole, right? Because I think almost every veteran I talked about, it's really what we miss is that culture, right? You have my 6, I could depend on you. Again, there was structure, and I knew where I stood. And going out of that, not having by the same rules that that was in place for so many years, really changed me. And so it jaded me in a way. And I became angry and became frustrated. And what do you mean you don't understand? What do you mean you didn't deliver this? And because we're so mission focused. So that band of brothers and sisters that we served with that one job, one mission, one unit, all that is now gone. And what I tell folks is, in that first year especially, that first year when we talk about veteran suicide, and on the eve of Memorial Day, right? We're looking at 22 per day right now. And that transition period where when you walk out those gates, now you just lost your military family, your community. You've lost your identity. You've lost your funding, your health care. Hell, even what you wear, because we're no longer wearing that same uniform.
Yeah.
Where do you live is now gone. And so that first year, they train you 4 or 5 months to be a war fighter, but only a week to train you to be a civilian. And you're like, oh crap, oh shit,
Yeah.
So
if they train you,
they train you at all.
Yeah.
So that stress and anxiety was true for me. Didn't know my sense of purpose, my worth, and it took a long time, even going to find my tribe, my group, to really understand and heal properly. I never knew what the healing process would look like until I was able to reconnect with some of those roots,
Yeah, that's so true. You get lost in that this abyss of kind of, I'd say, like purgatory, where you're just kind of in limbo, trying to figure out like what I'm dealing with, whatever, if it's like knee issues from wearing the boots, or the burn pits and all those things, and you're not getting the response you need, for your medical care, and you're not getting the response you need from the VA to cover that. It can be very paralyzing. You agree with that?
Absolutely. So much so because we expect everybody to work on our timeline, and it's just not going to happen. And so the timeline that we all are very used to, it should be just to hurry up and wait when it comes to anything VA. Whether that's disability claims or medical, just submit the claim and then just wait. Yeah. Because that's unfortunately the truth, in terms of how we deal and look at, life outside the military. Yeah.
At what point did you realize the check wasn't about money, but it was about being believed?
So when I filed my first claim 20 years after the fact, I filed for 20 things, right? Everything that hurt, because that's what I was led to believe.
Yeah.
18 of the 20 were denied. And man, that sense of worth, being called basically a liar. We don't believe you. And we all as veterans work with a certain set of ethos, integrity, honesty. If we say something's bad, it's bad. We're not going to try to do anything malicious here. So my stock in how I viewed myself went down tremendously, right? It was like, man, what's going on? And not to, so I felt that's how people looked at me. And it's like, I am a failure because I can't even get disability credits, right? And I'm going through all my other life stresses. So when I finally got to the 100% after years of work on it, man, it felt relief, vindicated, right? Like, yes, I was telling the truth. I was right, and that I was justified in my request. There was no scamming here. There's just me just trying to tell you my point, my story. And to convey that, my back is jacked or my knees are jacked. I have PTSD, and that really, and now finally getting the help that I need. Man, what a relief. And it's when people say it's life-changing, it truly is. And no more than, to your point, just the compensation, but the vindication that we were right.
Yeah, man. That's that. When you were saying, I got kind of choked up because you go through that struggle. 20 years. How did you get to yourself to a place that you could do that? I mean, first of all, what was the reason that kept you from pursuing the help? What do you think kept you from doing that within those years that you?
What prevented me was, the unknown. Right? Like, I don't know how to start the process. And to be honest with you, hear me in my early days, it's like, I'm not disabled. I'm tough. I'm a vet. There's no way I don't want people to look at me and look down at me or feel sorry for me, because that's not who I am. I mean, if you look at me today, I'm like, man, you would not know. But disabilities, not just physical, but internal. And so not be able to prove or not allow myself to be vulnerable, not allowing me to show weakness was also big. So that was the reason was I didn't want to be perceived any different than the person next to me. People will say they want to take money from the next guy down. That wasn't it. It was just my self-perception, my self-worth. I didn't believe that I was worthy of disability, and it's such a myth. Where now when I look back at my life, and now especially with PTSD, it explained so much. We talked, and that was truly the root cause of all my anger and how I treated my loved ones, my family, and even my friends. And it's just, so taking that and understanding what the root cause of really changed my life. But took 20 years for me to get there, of looking and finally saying, okay, I give up. I'm going to submit. You got
to get permission, give your permission to be broken, right? Do you believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. I say it to my clients all the time. Give yourself permission to be vulnerable. By doing that, then it becomes okay, right? It's not somebody telling me, "Oh, be vulnerable." Open up your feeling. No, you have to do the work and say, "Yeah, I can admit this," because again, it's not a weakness; it's a strength. Right. To say it takes a strong person to say, "Yeah, I do need help." And by doing that, it changes the game for her.
That's awesome, man. Let's talk about VetsForever. Let's break it down. Tell me what y'all do, what made you decide to get your why, your how, what, everything.
Well, my why was, getting to that 100% for me, right? And it's like, man, veterans should not have to fight this hard. Veterans should not have to go through the rigmarole of the VA and try to navigate a bureaucracy and not have anybody help them. And so for me, onboarding two other co-founders to come in and, hey, do you believe in this mission? Let's do this. And putting that together was really a key defining moment, right? Because my why is to really help, and that's it. And not just help, but be disruptive. And what do I mean by that? So VetsForever is a VF accredited law group. And what does that mean? Well, we're backed by the VA, meaning we took the extra steps to go through the rules and regulations that the VA now trusts us and gives us access to certain systems that allows me to look at the entire veteran's profiles because we have that background check, the trust of the VA. And by being accredited means that we're not going to try to scam anybody. We're not going to try to take advantage of any veteran. And so for us, when I look at everybody, it's like, look, I'm going to help all veterans. If I lose money, I lose money. I don't care. It's about helping, and it's about serving those that don't know how to navigate this complex system. And so different than any other law group, we react faster. We generate results within months, not years. And our veteran clients now have a strong legal advocate if they do get denied, that we can represent them in the appeal process and win. And so that's a very powerful tool that when you talked about, when you look at other organizations and other similar models, they don't have half the clearances or the access that we do.
Yeah.
And the ability to go to speed, knowing that we're not here to get rich, we're just here to serve. And that's what we are about. We're here to serve our veteran community with the utmost integrity and ethos that we all signed up to be, right? One team, one mission, let's get you the help you need.
Yeah. You know, when I filed my claim, I didn't have any help. I did it myself. I'm surprised I got approved the first time. So it's just interesting. But what I did find out was, like, when I pursue other avenues to get help or whatever, there was never anybody there. When you compare VetsForever to some of the other organizations, what separates you from whatever other organization? I won't say the names, but you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. When you compare apples to apples, again, the fact that we're accredited means that we have a JAG officer on staff. We have access to a system called VBMS, which allows me to look at your entire records. And guess what? Our fees are probably, you're not going to get lower. Why? Because we're regulated by the VA. When you go to the other guys, they're going to charge you a lot of, not only a large fee, but they're also going to have hidden cost. Like, hey, guess what, man? You didn't report your back pain, you're going to need a nexus letter. And you're going to need to go and talk to this doctor that we know, and you're going to pay him X amount of dollars. And so they're nickel and diming you, whether you know it or not. Whereas we have never requested a nexus letter or have a doctor recommended you go see a doctor other than your primary care or the VA. And we win 90% of the time. So, I mean, when you look at the type of results that we generate compared to the other guys, we're not in it to be rich. We're in it to help you in the most responsible and truthful and ethical manner possible. And that's what we are about. So, bottom line, I love what we do. I mean, as an accredited agent, I have the authority. People trust us because why? We have the backing of the VA. Point, full stop. I mean, they can't legally prepare, or prosecute any claim. We can. Wow,
that's amazing, man. Dude, I gotta tell you, when I was doing my research to get you on the podcast, that's what I felt from you. This conviction, the spiritual, this vested conviction in who you were. I said, man, I got to get Trinidad. I got to get this organization on the podcast and get to know you better. And my instincts were right. Hearing you talk today is it's like, wow, you're in it. You're in it. You're in the foxhole with the other veterans, and you're working this process with them. Primarily, what you guys do is get individuals their ratings. Is that accurate, or do y'all work beyond that as well?
Well, that's our primary, correct. So we help every veteran, and I mean it doesn't matter if you never filed or at 90%, to get the VA rating that they've earned, right, and they deserve. So we help them prepare. We create a strategy session. We write a statement of support of claim. We fill out all the paperwork. We prep them for a C&P exam. And then when the decision comes, we're either popping bottles because we won, or you know what? Okay, we've got to appeal this, and we're going to represent you with our JAG officer. And so we are truly a full suite. So it's a fire and forget. For you have one conversation with us, and then maybe some micro conversations throughout the process. But we're keeping you informed. We're letting you know. We're completely transparent with you on the process, and that's powerful because again, people in this state, or in this journey, I should say, are often lost. They're confused. They're skeptical, and if with good reason, because again, there's a lot of noise out there. And no one's telling them, what I tell them, the truth. and we're just here to speak the truth. Like this is what you need. This is how we're going to proceed. And guess what? You're going to just simply approve everything that we submit. Is that true? And they're like, yes. And then we're a partner in their journey with them.
Awesome, man. Were you fully healed when you launched VetsForever, or were you still bleeding, building something for others while trying to stop your own pain?
You know, great question, because I would tell you at the time when I started, yeah, I'm fully healed. And I was wrong. I mean, you know, I was lying to myself. My healing process was when I was in the front line in that foxhole talking to veterans every day, multiple times a day, hearing their story, hearing their journey, and be able to relate. And I'm like, man, you know, that's true. And then be able to give my little piece of wisdom to them, and seeing them feel like the relief in their face or in the tone of their voice. It's like, oh, you mean you go through that too? And for me to tell my story about, you know, my PTSD or, you know, my back, or just give them, I always throw myself under the bus and I say, yeah, this is my journey. The more I spoke to them, the easier it was for them to open up to me. You know, sometimes it just took a couple minutes, sometimes it was a whole conversation. But that I gave them permission to be vulnerable because they saw me be vulnerable. And so for me, my healing really was really transpiring then when I was talking to them.
Yeah.
And over hundreds and hundreds of talking to veterans. I can go on any stage now and tell my story with conviction and tell them it's okay. Like, I'm not weak, I'm strong because this is who I am.
Yeah.
And if I can help one person kind of navigate whatever depth of darkness that they're in and help them see that light, then I'm okay with that. And to me, that's the journey.
That's so awesome, man. Like you're in that walk with them, shoulder to shoulder. I always say shoulder to shoulder, you know, arm in arm, you know, with your shield, with your sword, ready to do what you got to do. You know that you're going to go through hurt with them, right? When they share their story, you're willing to like get in there with them, and even if it's triggering to you, and maybe has there ever been a time where it was so triggering that you got emotional? And you're like, oh my God, like I can't, you know, it's like, I mean, you can't. I'm just saying, like, was there a time where it's like, oh man, this is like heavy? Yeah,
I mean,
without revealing any names, you got a story?
No. Yeah. I tell you the one time that really floored me, and I immediately had to tell my organization, like, don't do what I just did. It was the end of the day. My tinnitus was going crazy. I was getting into migraine. Like I was putting in the work. I was tired. Got to a vet, you know, my last call, and you hear like this fire alarm thing going off in the background. This gentleman in the background just screaming and yelling, and so it was hard to understand the veteran and trying to, and you know, he was an older veteran, so you know, you got to have some grace and some patience.
Yeah. Finally,
after the case, sir, can you just go to the other room? Can you just get in a quieter spot? After about 50 minutes of getting what information I needed, I was like, okay, I'm so done. And then I said to the gentleman, hey, you know, I just want to send you an email. We're going to, you know, send some contracts, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, okay, I think I can do that. I'm in a homeless shelter now. And I'll try to get. And boy, yeah, it was like a kick in the gut. I was like, holy cow. I was like, who am I to judge this vet here? Yeah. Like here, I'm feeling bad for myself. I'm feeling bad because I have a headache. Oh, boo-hoo. But this dude, is in it. And I was like,
got me.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
And it's just like, never. You know, I will never judge another vet. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, not that I have, but it was a firm reminder. Yeah, man, I'm going to war for that guy. You know, it's like whatever he needs.
Yeah.
You know, he sends me limited text. Yeah, dude. Well, don't care for him. Whatever time at night, dude, I got you.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just. Yeah. That was a time that I will never forget.
That was your 4-alarm fire, right? Like I said, I got to keep myself in the moment, like in the zone with this guy in that foxhole, digging or trying to get ourselves out of that together, right? Man, that's epic, man. That's one of those things that only makes you stronger as a leader. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, again, I pride myself on leading by my example. Like never. Asking my team something that I'm not afraid to do, right? I'm going to do it. And but I think in that moment, showing Yeah, even your leader fails. Like I had a temporary lapse of judgment or there, and by admitting that weakness, I felt that my team respected me more. It's like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's what you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And that's...
Wow. You don't know where people are at you don't really know exactly where they're at when they're reaching out for help, right? Like
Absolutely.
That's the big thing. I remember there's an organization called Code of Vets, and I was struggling financially, and all I needed was $340 to pay my rent. That's it, And she did everything through Twitter, and her name's Gretchen Smith. She's a very popular person in the vet space, and I reached out to her, shared my story, and I just told her I need some help. She sent me that money. I'm not gonna lay that thing, that hope. What about hope? What is it about hope that you are actually like going? I'm giving you're giving these people hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the key. Because again, some of the folks that I talk to are years in the fight.
Yeah.
Struggling, denials. One case just yesterday, Vietnam vet, he was in the suck, 12, in Vietnam, severe dementia, aggression for years. Can't even remember his name. We sit here today, I talked to the evaluator and, put up a good fight. We're going to win the appeal, but it was calling his daughter afterwards, who's his caretaker. And she just said, man, thank you for everything. It's like, I feel like we have a fighting chance. I feel like that we're finally going to get the help that we need. And because I broke it down to her, I said, listen, here's how it went. And I'm not just going to go for the bare minimum. I went for the home run. I'm like, we're going to try and get you 8 in attendance. We're going to try and get you 100%. The argument that we put forth is going to be there. And if not, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And she started crying. It's just like, thank you. Just because that type of advocacy almost doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
With all respect to my VSOs, they're so overwhelmed they can't do that kind of advocacy. The other guys, sure as heck, don't do that. And other lawyers and attorneys may not do that because they're going through a whole different system.
Yeah.
So when you look at, man, you got someone in that foxhole, someone that's really that gives 2 cents about you, man, hope is everything.
Yeah. No, man, it's like they say faith, they say all you need is faith as a mustard seed. All you need is a hope. All you need is hope as a mustard seed too. That little hope, just could break this person. I will say that $340 is the reason I'm here right now. That's the reason we're sitting down together right now. Because it was that moment where I could have just wrecked my whole part. I could have been evicted. It could have been everything, right?
Yeah.
And I say, wherever you are, Gretchen Smith, thank you very much. I want to give her a shout out for doing that for me. Okay, before we wrap up, got one more question. What do you hope the next generation of veterans feel when they see what you've built, and what does it feel? What's the feeling? What's the feeling you want to unlock in them?
For that next generation of veterans, for me, my biggest thing when I get on stage or when I talk to a group of folks is, I'm not here to sell you. I'm not going to sell to a vet. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to provide you the tools and resources you need to be successful. If you need my help, great. But education's the key. As I said, when we transition out, when we're out, we don't know who to turn to. I hope that our organization provides them the tools and resources they need so that they can navigate their system to get the VA disability ratings that they earned. Because to me, that's the mission.
Yeah.
For someone to stand by you, give you what you need to go out and get it, great. If you need our help, great. But for me, hope is such a great and transformational word because, again, providing them the right education, knowing that someone does care for them, that somebody is giving them the latest and greatest news and how to proceed, what forms, all that mumbo jumbo. Here's the education. Let's talk about it. And don't wait till you're a veteran like me. Start a year or two before you get out. Let's talk about that. And so that way, that first year of transition when you're getting out isn't as stressful. You're not as anxious because now you've got a disability rating and you're getting some income. And then that may, to your point, now you don't have to worry about paying for rent or food.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Yeah.
And having that security there is in place is my hope that no veteran goes through what I did.
Awesome. Awesome, Trinidad. That was an awesome podcast. I always do this with each guest. We're going to do this, and I'm going to finish off with an extra step for you. Okay. I always say, you didn't get here alone, right? Mm-hmm. Someone out there helped you get to where you're at today. I always say that maybe individual out there that you want to give them thanks, or there's somebody that you want to encourage to keep chasing that keep going down that path they're going on. Look in the camera and speak to the individuals you'd like to address and say thank you to, or give them some affirmation.
Yeah, my of course, my biggest affirmations to my family, to my wife, right? As I was going through my demons and my journey, she stood behind me, right, to help me get to where I am today. And kind of like the old movie in Rocky with Adrian, I looked to her and I said, look, I want to start this crazy, mad entrepreneur journey, and I want to help other veterans, and we're not going to make a lot of money, but are you with me? Is this okay? And she said, yeah, I got you. And I want to tell her how much I love her and thank you, and through faith of God and her support, we're here today. And words go without measure how much I love her, how much I care for her, because without her giving me the green light, I'm not sure I would be here today. And so that's my biggest affirmations to my wife, who got me here, and her support and love.
Awesome, that's beautiful, man. Don't. I'm thinking about my wife when you're saying that. we got something in common, man. We got a good woman behind us.
That's right.
Okay. Now I want you to do a call to action. Say, hey, if you're, whatever, people want to come to VetsForever, just give them a call to action.
Yeah, absolutely. So my call to action to you is, if you're struggling, if you don't know where where to start, you need just some basic questions answered. I encourage you to go to our website at www.VetsForever.com. You can find who we are, see and read our blogs, our videos. You can sign up for a free strategy session with me or anybody on my team. We're all 100% disabled vets, and most of us are. So we've walked the walk, we know your journey, and we're here to help and support. So I encourage you, if you're in that place and you need some help, reach out and we'll be happy to serve.
Trinidad, my brother,
right,
man,
bro.
that was awesome, man. Awesome podcast. I mean, just all the wealth of knowledge and information about the backbone of VetsForever. This what you shared today just highlighted the spiritual essence of VetsForever, and thank you very much, man, because it's very eye-opening. Even your journey and you talking about the steps and stuff like that just resonate with me, because I've walked the walk, similar to you. So it's I really appreciate taking the time to be on Unfinished Business Podcast.
Thank you, Rush. I appreciate and honored to be here. So thank you for your time in this.
You're welcome. Hey, all right, guys, that's it for Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. As I always say, have peace and enlighten you, and remember, the ocean refuses no river.
Unfinished business. Unfinished business. The road is long, but I won't fade. I'll rise from the war I made.